Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the CUNY Women's Conference Week, Career Compass for Women Leaders. I am Vivian Lee. I'm one of the correspondents and producers of Asian American Life, one of the award-winning shows that's produced by CUNY TV, and I'm honored to be your host for this session. Thank you for being here from wherever you are in the world. I know there are many of you tuning in. In case this is your first Women's Conference Week event, the theme of this year's conference is CUNY Means Business, Empowering Women to Thrive as Professionals. Within that theme, we will explore 5 different tracks, and they are 1, leadership excellence, recognizing, cultivating, and empowering women to lead effectively. 2, trends influencing work and careers, opportunities, and challenges. 3, prioritizing well-being and self-care, modeling healthy leadership. 4, leadership transition planning, identifying and nurturing female talent. And finally, the 5th track is leading multi-generational teams, empowering women across generations. You will have the opportunity to explore these tracks via the 12 amazing talks that we have planned for you today, but there is one condition. You can only choose 3 sessions of the 12, so you have to choose the 3 talks that you want to attend wisely. You can do so by looking on your screen and hitting today's date, after which you will be directed to a page where you can make your 3 choices. And don't worry, recordings of all 12 of the talks will be made available at a future date. Now, to kick things off, and without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Chancellor Felix Matos Rodriguez. He was appointed in 2019 as the first educator of color and the first Latino to lead the country's largest public university. Safe to say that career pipelines are his jam. For students and graduates, he has launched a series of public-private partnerships, including the New York Jobs CEO Council and CUNY Futures in Finance. He is also the very affable host of Café con Felo, one of the award-winning shows produced by CUNY TV. So everyone, please welcome Chancellor Felix Matos Rodriguez.
Thank you so much, Vivian, for that very, very kind introduction and for all the inspiring work that you do, telling the stories of our university and our city in CUNY TV. And thank you for your participation on the conference. And good morning and buenos dias to everybody who is participating in the CUNY Career Compass for Women's Leaders Conference. As Vivian mentioned, this is day 3 of the conference, and I want to thank all of you, particularly those who participated volunteering during the day of service, which has been a tradition of the conference. Since Hunter College was founded back in 1870 as the city's first tuition-free women's public college, CUNY has been deeply committed to fostering equity and opportunity for women. And at CUNY, we are proud that women make nearly 60% of our 240,000 degree-seeking students and roughly 55% of our faculty. And we benefit greatly from their rich perspectives and experiences. Across our city, state, and country, generations of CUNY women have made significant contributions in areas such as scholarship, research, government, and the arts. Elevating women into leadership positions has been a priority for me as chancellor, and I'm proud to say that half of our schools are now led by presidents and deans who are women, and women throughout my administration are playing leading roles in all of our signature initiatives, and many of them will be participating in the conference today. But I know that simply appointing women into senior positions of leadership is not enough. To ensure that we have women at all levels of leadership, we must, as a university, be intentional about supporting their success at every stage of their career. And this is where the Career Compass Conference comes into place. Now, in 6 years, the conference was created for this purpose, to offer women on CUNY's professional staff a platform for networking and discussion aimed at supporting your career growth, both within CUNY and beyond. We'd like it to be within CUNY, but beyond too. And this conference, along with CUNY's Student Women's Leadership Conference, which is now in its 21st year, make up the Women's Conference Week. I'm very excited for the program that we have planned. Our fireside chat, moderated by Hunter College Associate Director of Operations and Special Projects, our good friend, Frida Gaviloyova, will feature 5 leaders from our public safety team who do the vital work of keeping our campuses safe and contributing significantly to the well-being of the entire CUNY community. I want to thank them for sharing their time with us today, and I'm particularly proud to have had the honor of working closely with two of them, with Francis and Tatiana. After that fireside chat, Denise Patrick, a highly accomplished executive coach and consultant, would introduce our keynote speaker, Christine Cruz Vergara, who is Handshake's Chief Education Strategy Officer and an expert on strategies that drive student career success. I'm looking forward to hearing from both of them. I imagine that the most difficult part of this conference is going to be choosing which breakout session to attend. There are so many engaging topics to offer and speakers to listen to, including self-care in the workplace, building wealth, and ways to empower women in fields like healthcare and technology. Thanks to all of those who are helping to lead those forums, including the Interim Executive Vice Chancellor and University Provost, Alicia Alvero. I also want to shout out everyone who will be participating in tomorrow's Students Conference, including LaGuardia Community College Vice President for Student Affairs, Alexi McLean, Queensborough Community College President Christine Mangino, and the Macaulay Honors College Dean Dara Byrne, and former CUNY student trustee Salimatu Domboya. Special thanks to all of them for their participation. Please, please enjoy today's conference. I invite you to give yourself the space to reflect and consider your own personal goals, to take advantage of the chance to network with other talented CUNY faculty, staff, and listen with an open mind, participate and commit to follow up on the lessons you take away. And I hope that you'll be leaving proud to be part of CUNY's rich legacy, which includes so many inspired, talented individuals such as yourself. And with that, it is my great pleasure to introduce the one and only Frida Gaviloyova.
Good morning, everyone. I am so honored to be introduced by the Chancellor, a leader, a mentor. I have had the honor to work with him. And Vivian, thank you for being here with us today. Welcome to the 6th Annual CUNY Women's Leadership Conference. Today, we gather to celebrate not only our achievements in academia, but also the incredible power of leadership and community. It is my honor to moderate this panel featuring our esteemed female law enforcement officers, the very individuals who embody strength, resilience, and unwavering commitment, both on and off our campuses. Our panelists are not just safety officers. They are dedicated public servants who wear many hats. Protectors, mentors, and champions of justice. They lead by example every day, ensuring that our campuses remain safe havens for learning and growth. Their work, often demanding and challenging, is rooted in a deep passion for service and commitment. Their leadership is a beacon of inspiration for all of us, reminding us that courage and determination can break down barriers and pave the way for more secure and just community. Today, we have the privilege to hear their stories, to learn from their experiences, and to gain insights into their multifaceted communities and roles they play. Their journeys are not only testimonies of professional excellence, but also narratives of personal triumphs over adversity. They exemplify the spirit of service with compassion, the essence of leadership with integrity, and the power of collaboration in creating safe, supportive spaces for every member of our community. So as we embark on today's conversation, let us celebrate the strength, resilience, and wisdom of these incredible women. Let their voices inspire us to lead boldly, to care deeply, and to commit to making our communities stronger and safer for everyone. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming our distinguished panelists. I now invite our CUNY public safety officers to share their insights on various topics, followed by a dynamic discussion on the evolving challenges and triumphs in law enforcement and campus safety. Let's make today a powerful celebration of leadership and a step towards a future where every woman's voice is heard and every challenge is met with courage. They will briefly introduce themselves and their roles on the campuses. It's muted.
I'll start. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this year's Women's Leadership Conference. I'm very excited. I'm Francisca Vargas. I currently work at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism. I am the rank of chief for the City University of New York Public Safety Department. I've also served at Medgar Evers College, Kingsborough Community College, and Central Office.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. I'm honored to be a part of this panel. I'm Specialist Rochester from City College. I've worked for our beautiful Department of Public Safety for 24 and a half years. I started at City Tech, then Central Office, and now I am a Community Affairs Officer at City College.
Good morning, and thank you for having me as well. My name is Anastasia Koutsides. I am currently the Operations Lieutenant at Hostos Community College, and I'm just completing my 27th year.
It's muted, Jessica.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. I am Jessica Marrero, the Director of Public Safety at City Tech in downtown Brooklyn. I began my CUNY career in 2012, proudly so at Brooklyn College, and then I transferred over to City Tech.
Muted. Francis, you want to introduce Tatiana for now?
Yes, of course. Sergeant Tatiana Lopez is currently assigned, Tatiana Singleton Dunlap is currently assigned to Central Office, the Chancellor's Office. She's worked at Gutman Community College and New York City Tech.
Before we dive into the great conversation with our great panelists, I would like a question that's been always asked is, what is your role as campus public safety, and how does it differ from traditional law enforcement? In that, how does your role extend beyond the campuses? In conversations with you, I've heard how you have collaborations and strong, community network. If you can all dive into that briefly.
So we are New York State peace officers. Our officers go through an academy that's a little over 4 months long. The criteria and the curriculum is set by New York State Department of Public Safety, Department of Criminal Justice. We're not very different than any other law enforcement agency out there. Our geographical area of employment, our precinct, so to speak, is, what most people refer to like the NYPD working out of, are our campuses. And our clientele is the campus community, the faculty, staff, students, and visitors that we have every day. But we will assist people as needed with whatever they need. If they need a door open or if they're sick or injured, we train in hundreds of hours of different topics that a lot of people don't even know we know about. But outside of the campus, and most of our campuses are not enclosed, so we do deal with the public more often than not. I myself have 6 buildings over 7 or 8 blocks. But we have helped the city as well. We worked 9/11 myself. I've been around for a really long time. The blackout during 2003, the MTA strike, the Hurricane Katrina, I'm sorry, not Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Sandy, and Hurricane Irene. Myself, Chief Vargas, and a couple other folks would work at the Office of Emergency Management and help coordinate the shelter system when it was activated during those times. So everything we do inside the campus extends outside the campus more often than not.
Good morning. My specific role on campus is community affairs. So the last 6 years I've been in this role, and I must say it's been so thankful to be in this role. Not only do I do community affairs on campus, we extend that to the outer campus of our Harlem community. We have very intense ties with our community leaders, with the 2 local precincts that serve our campus because we have such a large campus. Like this Wednesday, I'm doing a short self-defense class for teenagers outside of the community. I love this because I'm serving the community I was raised in. And for me to be out there seeing these people, these families that see me grown and help me to get to where I am today is satisfying. To be there to help them by any means necessary is satisfying. So being involved in the inner community and the outer community brings me a lot of joy.
Chief Vargas.
I've been looking to serve in a few campuses, and I always like to say every campus has its own campus culture. So whether I'm at Kingsborough or Medgar Evers, I feel like, it's always, you know, it's always interesting to adapt to where you are, and the only way to do that is to get to know your community, and you get to know them by interacting with them, by going to the student events, by making yourself available, making yourself seen, right? So one of the things that I enjoyed about being on a college campus was that interacting with the students and making sure that we have the resources available for what they need, and connecting them to those resources, so that way they can be successful in their academic careers.
So our role as a campus peace officer, I would say that while we're on campus and off of campus, we are helpers, we are protectors, we are healers, both for our campus members and for the surrounding community members, which brings into our community integrated with our campus and our surroundings.
Specialist Singleton Lab. I don't know if she's on. You can hear her. I'm just going to give her a second. Oh, no audio. You're waiting for the audio. Okay. Sorry about that. We're going to talk a little bit about your career journey and what motivated you to pursue a career in law enforcement. It's not a career that when you go to college, it's not one of the top 5. And we all know why, right? Was there a particular moment that shaped your decision? And also, what is continuing to motivate you to excel in this field? That's a question for all.
Yeah, I'll start by while Sergeant Dunlap gets her audio in check. So I would say I answered the call for service while I was in college. I was attending college at BMCC. I was a student at BMCC, and somehow or another I got connected with public safety, and I took a number of civil service tests at that time, and I saw this as an opportunity. Yes. Yeah. There you go. I saw this as an opportunity to just be involved on the campus. I got picked up by Kingsborough Community College. And I just saw it as an opportunity, not just for educational advancement, because there's benefits to working in CUNY with the education as well, but also I saw the professional growth within the agency. And early on, I did know the path that I wanted to take, because once I got into CUNY Public Safety, then I recognized that I had a very strong interest in training and being a part of a training academy. So I started taking training courses, entry-level training courses, which led then to instructor-level training courses, more advanced courses, and gave me the opportunity to teach in the training academy. In teaching in the training academy, we don't just train our CUNY public safety officers, we train various other city agencies, which are peace officers as well. So that just is like, giving back to everyone, right? Making sure that everybody is prepared for their day-to-day job, regardless of what we do. So that's kind of where I started. And the inspiration really comes from, I really do enjoy doing what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. When I interact with students on campus, or when I'm at an event, or working a detail, it is, it really brings me joy to do what I do, and that's why I do it.
Sorry, you want to go?
Rocky, you can go.
Okay. So I started as a contract guard at City Tech, and that's an outside company that was hired by CUNY. And when I started, I had no interest in law enforcement. I'm not gonna even lie. I was like, no. But the people that were there in the public safety department seen something in me, and they just took to me and encouraged me and was just pulling on my strings. Saying, this is what you need to do. We see this, we see something in you. And I was fighting. I was fighting hard. But I listened and I let them guide me. And here I am 24 years later.
Beautiful. Specialist Innington, if we want to hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, great. First of all, CUNY IT is the absolute best. For my answer as to why I joined CUNY Public Safety, I was in newspapers for 20 years before this. I used to edit, write stories, and digital graphic design. But my husband actually inspired me and encouraged me to take this job and pursue this career. He's been in public safety for 22 years, and he believed that my character and the skills that I had built in newspapers would be really beneficial to this job.
Lieutenant Series.
So for me, my career in law enforcement started in the late 80s. I know I look much younger than I am, I understand. But I started as an intern with the NYPD when I was in high school. And growing up in the city, and I'm a Queens kid, so you only know the NYPD, right? You don't know about these other agencies. When you think law enforcement and you grow up in the city, immediately you think NYPD. And that's the path that I was on for many, many, many years. I was an intern, I was a cadet, I was an auxiliary, I was an explorer advisor at my home precinct in Corona, for many, many years. And I was a student at Queensborough, and I played on the softball team. And one day I broke my nose, got hit in the face with a ball, and public safety came to my rescue. And the sergeant at the time, who actually still works for CUNY and is still at Queensborough all these years later, was awesome. And we became friendly. And one day he said to me, you should really take the test. And back then you had to wait many years to get called for any civil service job. And I took the test for CUNY, and they called me, and it's been a roller coaster ride ever since. And I never look back. I love the students. I love the atmosphere. I've had many opportunities to go to other places, but CUNY is the place where I've always chosen to stay.
So for me, I was inspired by family who were already in the field of law enforcement. So we just follow our models. In 2006, I became a federal officer. After that, in 2012, my children were enrolling for college at CUNY sites, and I was motivated by the professionalism of public safety and their courtesy. As we would go from campus to campus, they would check out what the clubs were, where the gym was. I was observing public safety because I knew that they were going to help my child with their safety, with their well-being. And I just saw a lot of good attributes to public safety, and I thought that was very important, and I decided to become a part of it.
Can I make a little joke? Maybe it's because we don't want to let you guys go into other office, agencies, and we want to just keep you here because you're one of the best of the best. And speaking about that, thank you, ladies, so much. I know we talk about motivational and positive things, and I'm sure in your career you face challenges in your leadership. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced in the career? Do you think these challenges are unique to females in law enforcement because you are in a male-dominated, I don't know what bubble, if you want to call it, because you wear many hats? And what strategies have you used to navigate and thrive all these years?
So for me, I started in CUNY in 1998, and I was one of three females on my campus. One was a supervisor. The other was also an officer who eventually moved on to another agency. And I was very young when I started. I was the baby of the department where I was. And I started at York in South Jamaica. I was there for the first 14 years of my career. And I was promoted very early in my career. I was only there a little over a year of the first time I got promoted, and it was hard to look at these other officers that were working, and that they were there longer, they were older, they had more experience, and now I was tasked with supervising them. So navigating that was difficult in and of itself, but they were awesome and they helped wherever they could. And a lot of it was trial and error. Learn from your mistakes, learn from the good, the bad, the ugly, and just go to work every day, do the best that you can do, be the best person that you could be, learn something new every day, and just motivate yourself. And having a good team is always awesome because they lift you up and they help push you forward, and that team continue to push me forward to help me be where I am today.
Specialist Law?
One of the things that I find is a challenge for me, because when I got this job, my children were quite young, is the things that we have to miss out on. There have been times where I've missed out. I missed out on holidays. I've missed out on, homework assignments and wrestling matches and such. But like the lieutenant said, having that family as aspect at work also helps. There was a time where I missed Thanksgiving with my actual family, but I brought Thanksgiving to City Tech, and we made turkey, and we just, for those of us that were there, so we lean on each other to get through. And I don't necessarily feel like it's something that is female or male, just because in the nature of the job we do, we have to lean on each other. For some of us, it is harder than for others, and we rely heavily on the tribes that we have in our personal lives to help us in our professional lives.
Hey, Vargas.
I think we bring unique strengths to the field. And when I say strengths, people only think of strengths like, I'm physical strength. And while we do need to make sure that we're upkeeping with our physical strength and our wellness as well in this field, it's very important. But we also come with, we learn how to own our own space and I think confidence has a lot to do with that when you lead with confidence, and we also have empathy with strength. So I feel that's very unique in itself. I worked in the training academy, and I was the only female instructor. There's always one female instructor at the training academy, and I was always with the guys. I'm surrounded by all the guys, and you know, you learn how to work with them. You kind of learn how to go around certain things, and you recognize how you can help them do their job better, but they also recognize that, we can work together. We can work together. It's not there's obstacles that we face in a male dominant field. Obviously, in our agency, we're about 30% females. So, we still have some work to do there. I know there's other larger agencies that it's probably a lower number than ours. We do very well. I think we have a significant amount of female supervisors. But I also think when like me, when I was an officer, I I felt the need to always want to know more, to learn more. And, I had that interest, not because I wanted a gold shield, but because that helps me. The knowledge is going to help me, you know, in how I respond to things, how I help people, how I serve people. So the learning, growth, and the experiences help me in providing that good support. So kind of navigating that in the male-dominated field is a strength in itself. So we're very much well needed in this agency and in this profession.
Director Marrero.
Revolving times that we live in is one of the challenges that we face here at our campuses. Our outside society also influences our campuses. Things such as technology and how it has evolved, and how technology has evolved us and our changing communities. All of that seems to come into play with our campuses as well, and we have to change with it. Another thing is, as Sergeant Dunlap had said, our demanding schedules. On this panel, we all know what it's like to be on a daily tour of 16 hours a day, or to receive a call for assistance when you're at home, thinking you're gonna be home with your family and spend some time watching a Netflix movie or whatever it is. But we know what it's like to get the call of duty and to have to respond. And it's the career that we chose gratefully and proudly, and we always answer that call.
Special Ed Rochester, please.
Yes. I too started the career when my son was very young. I had my son at 19. Thankfully, I had the family that I had to back me up. So that was a challenge, right? Trying to care for a young child and getting started into this career and having a demand of the job and trying to navigate that. But I think, like Sergeant Dunlap said, a lot of it is not only the challenges for women, it's just the challenges of the job. Yes, we do have some obstacles we have to jump across in this male-dominated field, but if you just stand, I tell our young female officers, stand in your own, stand in your truth. Know that you have something to bring to the table and be confident in that. Like Chief said, the confidence goes a long way. And I know some are not as confident, but that's when you lean on your other female officers, or just like this panel. We've known each other for a very long time. So when we maybe, is discouraged or not sure or not as confident one day, we call on each other and say, listen, I'm going through this. Listen, I'm having a day. And we uplift each other. That's what we have to do as women and continue to do in this male-dominated field. We have to stand by one another. But I just say, stand in your truth. Know that we are needed. Just like Chief said, we need them just as much as they need us. And when we understand that we can work as a collective and work together, the job will get done. And that's our main goal. How can we work together to get the job done and set all our personal feelings or maybe how we feel each other aside? Because our community comes first.
Thank you for that. You briefly touched on the subject of, mentors, allies, motivation, empowerment. Um, who has personally empowered you throughout your career, and how have these mentors or allies played a role in your journey? What are you doing now to empower other women in law enforcement and public safety? And what advice would you give to a young woman considering this career? We're going to start with Specialist Dunlap, please.
Okay. Hello. So, going all the way to the beginning of that very long question, the people who I lean on the most and who have empowered me the most, I've already spoke that my husband is, one of my first and biggest cheerleaders. I happen to have a boss that is also one of my biggest cheerleaders. He does push me to go to trainings and keep up with what we need, across the campus is wide. But these ladies here on the panel, and I know that is going to come across as like a staged and funny answer, but it's the truth. I have worked either with or for every last person on this panel. When I first got here, they were further along in their journeys, and each one of them has reached their hand back to me and helped pull me up. And it's something that I've learned from each and every one of them. I am on the safe team, but I learned under Director Vargas. I have worked at both City Tech with Director, I'm sorry, I just call her Marrero, and I've been at Gutman with Lieutenant Casitas, and I've worked alongside Rocky. She was one of the first people who showed me how to hold my instrument and weapons properly, and giving me advice and guiding me along. And as they said, each one of them have taught me how to stand in my power. That is something that I've learned from them, because you don't come into I came in this from newspapers. You don't come into this knowing that you're going to do the best, as everyone else has done. You're just going to do your best. And now I'm in the position where I'm able to reach my hand back and to men and women. And it's, I don't want to say scary, but it's off-putting going from that person that had, reaches their hand out to the person that's reaching their hand back. And to hope that what I leave behind is something that is great and possibly even better than what I joined. That is something that is really important to me.
Thank you so much for that, Chief Vargas.
I have been empowered by some extraordinary women in my career. Some are law enforcement and some are not, because we have, where we work at, we have the opportunity to interact with people on different levels. But one of the things that is important is that is the sharing part, right? Sharing is caring. And we know the more we share, the more transparent we are, honest, open, and transparent that we can be with others. I think it's important, because that's your opportunity to give back, and not just, if you learn something and you share it with others and you're able to allow them to see how they can apply that, whether it's at their level, it's an amazing thing. So one of my mentors, who's no longer at CUNY, she taught me how to slow down in order to be more effective and provide clear direction. She taught me how to observe and adapt to my environment. Because when I became a lieutenant prior to this, I wanted to get things done quickly. I was like, let's do this. All right, she's like, you gotta slow it down. So it's important for us. It's important for us as we're growing, right, to not be afraid, to embrace learning. And not everybody is open to that. If I'm trying to help you and share what I've learned or what I've been through, so that way, if you go through the same thing, you can use that or apply it as needed. So, and learning is an ongoing process. It is always ongoing, training, whether it's going to training, getting together and communicating and knowing when you need to reach out for support. As we mentioned here, sometimes there's things that's going on, there's something going on at my campus, and I need Specialist Rochester to come in and help out and do a self-defense class, or I need Sergeant Dunlap to come in and help with recruitment or first aid CPR training. I know I could reach out to them, because I know that's a special skill that they have that they're better at than I am. So why not use those resources? We're all here to help each other and to uplift each other. And when we can make that connection, we're stronger together. we are strong, and that's where the strength in service comes in. But I've also had some, male supervisors and colleagues who've allowed me to see the strength within myself when there was, confidence is not something you just have. It doesn't just come, like, oh yeah, I'm confident, I'm strong, I got this, I can do this. Sometimes people need to remind you of just how strong you are, but you need to be willing to see it and accept it. So some of my male colleagues have allowed me to see in myself what I'm capable of doing what I'm capable of doing when I'm like kind of second guessing myself. Maybe I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready. They're like, but you are, because you know how to do this, and you have all the qualifications. And, um, they believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. They put me on special assignments, and put me in areas where I was able to be out of my comfort zone, but because they knew that I was going to get the job done and do it well, even though I didn't believe myself, that allowed me to grow. So it's so important to be able to do those things. But also students, when I speak to students here at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism, and I hear how they got into their field and how they got here, whether they're local from New York, but we also have many international students and students from all over. And they came here and they are pursuing their education. And I hear their why, like why they here, why they decided, maybe they were doing something else, and why they decided to change their career path, or why they decided to go into this field. That also empowers me, because I'm like, oh, that's amazing. So I try to take all these things into consideration, and that just reminds me of why I need to continue doing what I'm doing and sharing as well my what I'm doing.
Beautiful. Lieutenant Kotsidis?
So every coworker I've ever had, every supervisor I've ever had, every person I've ever met has contributed to the person I am, to the worker that I am, and to the leader that I am. There's a big difference between being a supervisor and being a leader of people. Everybody's different, everybody has a personality, and you have to learn very carefully how to navigate those different personalities. You can't just treat everybody the same, because everybody's an individual. Everybody comes from someplace different. I have taken the good, the bad, and the ugly from every person I've ever encountered to make myself the leader of people that I am today. And I hope to empower, mentor, whatever, however somebody wants to phrase it, the next group of leaders. I could train anybody to be a supervisor, right? Anybody could read a book, anybody could follow the rules, but being a leader of people it takes a very special kind of person. Not everybody can do that. To manage a group of people of different ages, different backgrounds, different personalities is a special talent that comes with time and experience and learning. And I've learned from students, from faculty, from staff, from men, from women, from puppies in the street. Like I've learned something from anybody that I've ever encountered, and I take those things and I share them. As Francis said, your sharing is caring. We've been saying this for years. Anything I've ever learned, I try to teach to the next person, to try to mold them to become the best they can be, whether they're a supervisor or they're on the leadership path or not, right? I mean, just every officer deserves to be the best that they can be, and have supervisors and leaders that can help them grow. Whether they move up the ranks or not, it doesn't matter. They need to be the best that they can be to serve our community the best that we can. I mean, I've learned from some extraordinary students who came from places and I come from very humble background, and we were not rich by any means, but I've seen students who I just look at them and I'm just amazed at how young they are and how they navigate through life, and you would never know that they're sleeping on the Staten Island ferry every night, or they're renting a room with three other people and they're, doing all their homework on their phone. Um, two students, and I've been around for a really long time. I've seen thousands of students come and go. Um, Watching them graduate is always like, you know, tears in your eyes, like, oh, my babies are leaving, whether they're with you for one semester or 20 semesters. And I've had some people with us for 10 years and we're like, finally, congrats. But I had two students in particular at the same campus. One actually worked for me for a little while in my office. I furnished her entire dorm room when she got a full scholarship to Boston University because she had nobody. And for the first year she worked for me, I had no idea because she just came in and did her thing and moved on. And when I found out that she got this full ride to Boston, I was so proud. And she went to graduation and I felt like like the mama bear. Like I needed to make sure she was successful in her next adventure in life. And another student who was sleeping on the ferry every night, and we had no idea. And Sergeant Dunlap worked for me at the time, and she knows exactly who I'm talking about. And he was also like just this awesome, awesome student, friendly, personable. You would never know the backgrounds that he came from. And those are just two of the people, and they just so both happen to be students, but everybody that you encounter, everybody that you meet teaches you something good or bad, what to do, what not to do. And I just hope that when I leave here one day in the very, very far, far future, that I leave behind something and somebody looks back and says, oh, I learned that from Lieutenant Koutsides, or I learned that from Anna, or whatever it is that they call me, because I have so many nicknames. And I just hope that we all leave something behind to somebody, because we have a lot of knowledge, we have a lot of training, we have a lot of experience, and to leave that with the next person so they can be us one day is really important.
That was powerful. Specialist Rochester, please.
Yes. There's a word that I hold dear to my heart, and that's village. Very early on, it took the whole village of Harlem to raise me and to get me to a certain point. And when I started the career, I was blessed to get another village. The people who even believed in me to get me into the position and get me into the department, I was rough around all my edges, for real. And they embraced me, but I was open to be embraced. I was open to learn. I was open to listen. And it was woman and a man. I have a nickname. Everybody calls me Rocky on campus. It was one of my first lieutenants who used to call me his rock woman. That's because I was just so eager to learn. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do every task, even out of my position. I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. And he had to always say, no, you can't do that yet. So I was eager. And even now, I have a lot of mentors, male and female, that just embrace me and push me to beyond. Sometimes they just push me off the mountain and I'm like, wait, and they're like, no, you can do this. It started with Lieutenant Koutsides chasing me around the track with my asthma pump for my physical agility test. She was just literally like, you're gonna make it, you're gonna make it. And I could not breathe. I was like, I can't do this, I can't do this. And she was like, you want this pump? You gotta catch me. And that just showed me, right, that she was willing to go above and beyond even my life to get me, but it was just a push that I enjoyed. And I was like, wow, this is a woman who's like, no, you're not giving up. You might have this condition, but you could get through this condition. I'm an EMT and I got you. and also Chief Vargas. I met her very early on, and I had heard about her early in my career, but when I finally met her, everything she talks about, she embodies. She's not just a person who just speaks, and when you meet her, you see something different. She was always open. I believe she was always a higher ranking officer than me, but you never knew when you met her. She didn't come with no ego. I just want to give you your flowers, because you have shown us that it's possible. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I remember texting her when she became a lieutenant, and I was like, thank you. Thank you for showing us that a woman could do this, because we are in this man dominated field, right? And we don't see it a lot. There was others, but she was one that I paid attention to, and just how she was willing to share, how she was just open for you to call her, no matter what rank you was, no matter what rank she was. It was an open door policy with her, and she still stays the same. So I thank you for that. Even Dunlap, I'm so proud of you. Even coming in and, like she said, helping her and guiding her, and now to see the leadership role that she has taken, that means a lot, because we're at this level, and like you said, we're reaching back to now give that to other officers, whether they're male or female. And that's where that village comes in at. We hold each other's hand, we pull each other up. So I am proud of everybody on this panel, and thank you for everything that you have poured into my life. Director Barrera, I haven't worked with you directly, but I've heard great things about you. So I thank you for giving everything that you have given to the department.
I just wanna say thank you. Thank you, Rocky. Thank you. You guys have me tearing up here in the office. But everyone, there's room for everyone at the table. That's what I want to say. This is not a competition. It's not a competition. So when we all can bounce back off each other, we all shine our own light, and we stay genuine, we all shine our own light. There's room for everybody. And when we are able to do that, each one of us brings something special, then we just can serve that much better, right? The service that we provide is that much better. And that's what makes us innovators, right? In changing that law enforcement field, and making sure that we're able to, see what is needed, what needs to be adjusted, what we need to be, how can we serve our communities better? But that all comes to what you're saying, Rocky. If I'm not being true to myself, then I can't keep up with who I am, but I have to, and that comes with being open about it and being willing to be transparent, even with things that, that maybe didn't come out right. But that's how we can all be better. And that's how we can all continue to grow as one. Because if I grow, I want all of you to grow as well.
You guys are gonna make the panel cry now.
Hey, I'm sorry, Frida. Can I just say that, as I'm thinking about everything that everybody's saying, I go back to what Dunlap said about, somebody reaching a hand back. I just want to say, I stalked Dunlap for years to come work for me, because from the first time I met her, there was something. I didn't know what it was, but it was something. And I was like, I need you to work for me. And she's like, no, I'm good. And then finally she caved. And she came and she worked for me. And it was one of the best decisions that I made when it came to building a team, when I was at Gutman, because Gutman was a new school and I got to pretty much build my team. And I held that spot for her. And I knew one day I was gonna get her.
And I'm glad I took it. I'm glad I took it, because it was building me and the officer that I am as well. So I'm glad I took it as well.
Director Marrero.
Empowering me is everybody on my team. Everybody on the campus, the students empower me every day. Their willingness to stay in the game, both the officers and the students and some of our staff as well, while they live their lives outside of CUNY, and that's just empowering in itself, and it's motivating. You'll complain about the the slightest thing throughout a day, but you see that somebody else went through so much more, and that right there is very empowering. As far as our panel, I have a story about all of them. Again, just like Rocky, Lieutenant Kusides, she was that pull during the agility test. She's that first motivator in CUNY who just said, "You got to get up, you got to move, you got to go, you got to go." And she was there from the very start, And Sergeant Dunlap was my field training officer when I came into City Tech, and both her knowledge, her willing to help, and her energy was very contagious, and it was just very empowering. And then you get to know people, and you know a little bit of the background. And she goes home to a family, and she goes home to two small children, and she goes home and she has a commute, and it's that in itself. And of course, Francis, when I became a manager, was always available to all of us on the panel when we had questions, because we had many, many questions to be answered. And she was always phenomenal. Rocky inspires me just by what the other CUNY members say. Like her reputation is how phenomenal she is and how she is engaged with her community as much as she is on her campus. And that right there speaks for itself. So I thank all of you. And I thank everyone on my team as well.
You guys are so awesome. But they didn't tell us to bring tissues, so enough of the tears. We're going to pivot into our next question, which involves student engagement. How do you navigate working with CUNY's multi-generational and diverse student body? How do you see your role contributing to student retention and a sense of safety and belonging on the campus? I personally have experience of that because I was a CUNY student, and I started with Anna, then I met Chief Vargas, then I met Sergeant Dunlap, then I met Rocky, and I met Director Marrero, but on different aspects. So I'm that student, but I need y'all to explain it to the team, to everyone who's listening, please.
Okay, well, for me, my immediate family, my sons and my husband and I are all on different levels, but we're all college students at the same time. So that is our regular at-home conversations, kind of are seeing education from different aspects. And I always look at how to interact with students or staff or faculty based on those interactions that I have with my immediate family. There's always something to learn from every interaction. Everyone knows that, and everyone has their own range of experiences or ideas, problem solving, that kind of stuff. And if we communicate better, or we learn to communicate better, we'll be able to alleviate any misunderstandings. So that kind of helps me when dealing with the CUNY community as a whole. I also am part of the recruitment team for public safety. So keeping up with people who are younger than me and what motivates them also helps when I'm trying to recruit people to this job and trying to get the kind of officers we're looking for. But on the campuses, when we have that kind of rapport, where, like you said, like as you were a student and the way you met and interacted with all of us, I think that level of comfortability happens to make people want to stay. When you feel comfortable at home, then you just don't look at school as school. You look at school as like your second home, and you feel comfortable, you feel safe, and then that would help with the retention, right? Like the safer a student feels, the safer the parents feel, the safer, and the more that they want to come to school and they want to do, all the interactive things that the school affords them, the more they, the longer they'll stay. And that I think our little bit of public safety interaction with them also assists them in keeping them. Obviously, their degree is what they really are here for, but the daily interactions and feeling safe are the things that keep them coming back.
So community affairs is my number one main goal on campus. So being involved with the community and getting to know the community, understanding different cultures, being open to the difficult conversations, especially when it comes to law enforcement. Um, Having those difficult conversations build a bridge from our community with law enforcement. Because like we know, sometimes the uniform is not always seen as the best thing. But I don't take that personal. I know that that's just the uniform. That's not geared towards Rocky. So I'm always open to the conversation and having those conversations and being involved in the community. You could catch me to a students' party, TikToking or dancing with the students. Getting that on that personal level makes them feel safe. It makes them feel comfortable, and it also allows them to come to you in need. You're not going to go to somebody in need if you're scared of them. You're not going to go to somebody for something if they have this facade up that they don't want to be bothered, right? So opening yourself up, being involved, and not only they are comfortable coming to you for them, they're comfortable coming to you for someone else as well, their family members, another student, a professor that they may feel that needs assistance, help, or just conversations. So that in itself helps gain retention. Like Sergeant said, when they feel safe, that's like when you feel safe at home, you want to stay home. You don't want to run away. Like us, we spend a lot of time at work. Our students spend a lot of time on campus. So sometimes they spend the majority of their time on campus. So we want them to feel safe. We want them to know that public safety is not there just for the law enforcement aspect, but we're there to provide them services, to have conversations. And then sometimes you just be that open ear because sometimes they're stressed, tests. There's a lot of things that go on in their life behind the campus life, just like us, but we have to be open for that. So I think keeping ourselves open to that and keeping our minds open and creating those and having those difficult conversations with our community in and out will bridge the gap between our community and law enforcement.
Thank you for that. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
I think I'll just add that, since we are the first responders on campus, I think we owe it to not just our students, but also the parents of the students, right, that come to our institutions. While most, majority of our students are commuter students, we have some students who are housed in our dorms for the campuses that have dorms. And I think I say a student is someone's son, someone's daughter, or they could be someone's mother, someone's father, because the age range of our students is very vast. So I think it's important for student retention that parents know that there's first responders on campus, that not just keeps the campus safe, but that it keeps the community safe in general, right? A lot of the parents attend open houses. They are aware of what activities are taking place on campus. And if a student doesn't feel safe on campus, it does have an impact on their academic success, right? Their grades may be affected. They may not feel comfortable attending class if something happened to them. So it's important for us as public safety to establish that trust and to, like Rocky said, you can only do that through these interactions with them and them seeing you, right? So they feel confident that we've created a space for them to study and learn, but also confident that if something does happen while they're in the process of getting their degree, that they can come to public safety and report it, and that we're going to be able to support them, provide resources, whether it's on campus or external resources, so that way they can, get back on track to graduate, which is our goal.
One more thing is that on our campuses, we focus on the safety and the well-being of our students and all of our members on campus. As we discussed earlier today, we do have students that come walking down different lanes in life, and there may be students, as Lieutenant Busidi stated, that their home is not secure, or they have food insecurities, or maybe health concerns. But the good thing with public safety always is that we have resources for everyone, and we're able to help in any way, shape, or form. Engaging our students during a cheerful club event or responding to someone who's not feeling well, always has a positive impact, whether the situation was not as positive as we'd like. I can't remember who said, but it's people won't remember what you tell them, or people won't remember what you tell them, but they will remember how you make them feel. So I've always thought that when I engage somebody, just help them feel safe, comfortable, and satisfied to your best extent.
I have to say, you know, being here for so long and working on a few different campuses and starting my career at York in South Jamaica, where I was the one that was very different from everybody else, you know, in the department, outside the department. Our schools, every campus has, you know, 100 different languages and countries where folks come from. You have to be open to learning everybody's different cultures, right? Because everybody, like I said before, everybody's an individual. And it took me a really long time to navigate the different cultures that are on the campuses and learning how this is okay and for some folks and this is not okay for other folks, and you know, religious groups and ethnic groups, and just even learning different languages. You know, I'm in the South Bronx now and I know more Spanish than I've ever learned in my life. And I took 3 years of it in high school, you know, so you have to be willing to learn. You have to be very accepting of others and don't take it personally. I remember one of the very, very first special events that I worked as a very young officer, and my director at the time pulled me off of a metal detector. And I was like, but what did I do? You know, and he's like, no, 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 and explained to me that the event was not to take it personally, and that, you know, the folks that were coming in for that event in their culture, they were more responsive to men than they were of women. And, you know, I had to learn that's okay, you know, and I navigated that, and you just need to be accepting of everybody and be open to understanding where everybody comes from.
Thank you guys so much. I just wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives with your walkie-talkies not going off like they did in rehearsal, making this happen. You know, as busy as your schedules are and hearing your beautiful stories and like just it's mind-boggling. How do you prioritize self-care? When do you say like, okay, let's shut this off, let's do this, and it's about me today, whether it's family, work, professional, personal life?
So when you start this job in this position, you know, you have a more rigid schedule, and when you get some rank, there's some fluidity that comes in play there. For me, prioritizing self-care is very new. This is, you know, after 10 years, I'm like, you know what? No, I'm gonna schedule myself in. That's something that I've been doing, you know, as early as this year. So I'm only like 2.5 months in. You know, I'm not, you know, nails, hair kind of person, but I'm starting to say, I have to turn my phone off. I have to take care of me because I can't pour from an empty cup.
And law enforcement is a very demanding job. You know, sometimes we're always on call, requires long hours, weekends, overnight shift, and sometimes missing family events, right? Because duty calls, there's unplanned events, but then there's emergencies, and you know, we're running to the emergencies. People are going away from them. We're running. We're essential personnel. So the demands of the job are very high, but your health and personal well-being are crucial, right? So you have to learn how to prioritize yourself. You have to take care of yourself so you can continue to serve others at your best, right? Because the job is, it's what you're passionate about, it's what you do, it's what you care about, but it is not your identity. It is not your identity. It's your source of income. It is not your life. Because at the end of the day, when, you know, when it's time for retirement, then you have your family, your home, your pets, your significant other, whatever it is, that's what you have, right? So your job is one aspect of your life. So you have to, make time for that. You have to make sure you schedule your regular doctor's appointments and any specialists that you may need, because everybody has different needs in their health and balance, right? Go for nature walks. I do miss campus life, and I think I miss campus life because during patrols and when I was an officer, that would be part of it, right? I will walk around I'm doing exterior patrol now, of some of the campuses that we have, and it's beautiful. Get to go for a run, go for a walk, find the awe in things, find whatever is going to give you that sense of awe, and that's different for everyone. So you have to find what works for you, right? So that way you can show up as your true authentic self, and you can achieve more, you can inspire more, and you can empower more when you're at your best, when you're healthy, when you're well, but also making sure that you take care of your family. You have to take care of your family. You have to take care of your home life, because that's, that's the long term, right? This is, work life. And I say, I have work, I have a work family, and we talked about that. And I have, people that you interact with, that you care about, that you celebrate birthdays with, but also trying to make sure that, you're not just visible when you're home, but that you're actively engaged with your family. And that may mean putting your phone down. Unfortunately, we can't put our phones on Do Not Disturb because we're always on call, but putting it down into the side, and if it's an emergency. And lastly, trusting your staff. I trust my supervisors. I trust that in my absence, they're going to do what I've trained them to do, what I've taught them to do, and that they're going to make the decisions that align with the type of leader that I am. And when you trust your supervisors, then, that takes, some ease off of your mental health.
Anybody else briefly?
It's difficult. It's difficult, but creating boundaries sometimes it's not so easy. Like Sergeant said, that especially early on, because it's a rigorous schedule. Sometimes it gets less as you move up the ranks. Sometimes it gets more vigorous depending on the rank you are. But creating boundaries and understanding that you come first. Because like Lieutenant said, or someone said, I can't pour from empty cup. So I'm gonna give as much as I can, and then sometimes I have to say no, and it's okay. But also, when it's those times that maybe emergencies or maybe something that came up at the last minute, if you really can't, just ask. Listen, I can't do it today, and most of the time they'll understand.
For me, I have an 8-year-old, so I probably have the youngest kid of everybody here, right? And I might be one of the oldest sitting here at the same time. And where I used to schedule time for manicures and pedicures and getting my hair done, now I'm scheduling time for 3 sports a season, 10 months a year, and having an 8-year-old with 3 or 4 girlfriends, right? running him. Well, I don't know. It used to be 7. He's down to 3, so we're good. I'm coaching baseball. I'm sitting on scholarship boards. I'm on the football league. So those my priorities and self-care have changed as my life has changed. I'm still got 2 phones, and I'm still gonna answer when they call, but I might be standing on third base when they do. And that's okay. That's okay. My self-care is being with my son and making sure that he's as happy as he can be, doing the things that he loves, and that's the things that I love.
Awesome.
Our schedules
Tomorrow?
are not attractive. One of my former mentors, she strongly emphasized self-care for many years, and she still does. She still does when we speak now and again. She's very big into self-care. But she would emphasize that if you're not feeling good, if you're not looking good, you don't look like you're well put together, you risk the confidence that your team or that your campus community has in you. And that's something that you don't want to gamble with. And so even if it's just 15 minutes a day, I'll take a walk, I'll buy myself my favorite lunch, or I listen to a podcast. But it's really important to prioritize your physical, your mental well-being, and your relationships. As Lieutenant stated earlier, they're all beneficial and they're all of their ways and very important to us so we can continue to serve here at our jobs.
Thank you so much. On behalf of the whole CUNY team, of each campus, each president, provost, titles, whatever, students, everybody on thing, I want to thank you. We appreciate everything you do for us, guys. Let us celebrate the strength, resilience, and wisdom of all these incredible women. You guys are awesome, and I'm honored to be part of this, moderating this panel. It was 3 years in the making, but we made it happen with your busy schedules. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Vivian, I think you're muted.
My goodness, you'd think that I would have learned that after years of pandemic Zooming. My apologies. Thank you to Frida for leaving an amazing conversation, and thank you to all of our women leaders who are helping to care for our campuses, the communities within those campuses. And I think it was Director Marrero who took the words right out of my mouth. Famous literary civil rights icon Maya Angelou had said exactly what Director Marrero said, which was, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And I'm so grateful to all of our women leaders for sharing little tidbits about how gratitude helps to motivate their continued excellence. And really some great stories from the front lines of people who have worlds to think about and not just themselves, even as they're managing their family and home lives. So thank you very much for sharing some precious time with us. I'd now like to introduce the moderator for the next portion of our program. She is an executive leadership coach and a consultant, as well as an adjunct assistant professor at Baruch College, Dr. Denise Patrick.
Thank you so much, Vivian. I appreciate the introduction. And thank you so much also to Frida and to the panel that we were able to hear from a little bit earlier, just prior to me popping on. So it is great to be here. It is great to be able to have an opportunity to speak with somebody who, as I've gotten to know her just in some very brief conversations, is interesting, is fun, funny, intriguing, engaging, all the adjectives that you could think of. And so I just want to take this opportunity to share a little bit of an introduction to her, and then I'm going to welcome her onto our digital platform stage. So we are going to have an opportunity to speak to a wonderful person named Christine Cruz Vergara. And it really is my absolute pleasure to introduce someone who I have found is a visionary leader who has dedicated her career to transforming student success in higher education. Christine is not just a leader, but she is also a nationally recognized change agent and expert in driving equitable career outcomes for students. As the Chief Education Strategy Officer at Handshake, Christine leads partnerships that impact over, this is incredibly impressive, 15 million students across 1,600 plus institutions, meaning that she helps bridge the gap between education and meaningful career opportunities. Excuse me, her insights and expertise are so impactful that some of you may have seen her featured in the Wall Street Journal, on CNBC, Forbes, Fortune, and also Inside Higher Education. She's a sought after thought leader in career education and workforce strategy. Now, prior to Handshake, she made waves at Wellesley College, where she redefined career education and was recognized with the Career Services Excellence Award. Congratulations from NACE, from NACE, and the Innovation Award from EduVentures. Her leadership spans across institutions such as Georgetown, George Mason, and George Washington University, as well as national organizations like NACE, NACE, and ACPA. Christine's work is not just about career pathways, it's about creating success, fostering equity, and transforming the way students navigate their futures. She is a bold, brilliant, and also relentless, I would say, in her mission to ensure that every student has a fair shot at success. So, all of us, would you please welcome me in joining and welcoming Christine Cruz Vergara?
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Good, doing well. Excited to be here with all of you.
Oh, great. It's great to see you again. And for us to be able to have a little bit of a chat about your experiences as a leader, what that all looks like, and how you have come to navigate the world. So before I ask my first question, is there anything that is burning in your mind right now about something that you would just love to share initially as you've kind of thought about this opportunity to speak with the people here at CUNY?
Ooh, that is a good question. I mean, if I'm being really honest, the thing on my mind is making sure that my son gets out the door in time for school.
There we go.
I'm on the West Coast, so it's about 7:30 my time right now, and he's about to walk out to the bus. So just wanting to make sure that is all happening.
Okay, so wait, maybe that's a great place to start. Then, because that was lower down on my questions, but let's move it up.
Okay.
Right onto this. So I love this, the transparency of, hey, this is great that I get to do this, but I do have mommy duties, right, that I need to handle. How do you, or how have you found yourself able to manage? I don't even like to use that word, to navigate. I'll say it that way, right? To navigate the duties of being in either higher ed, corporate, because you kind of shifted gears a little bit, but while also being parent.
Yeah, I think it takes a lot of juggling. I had a mentor and an advisor in grad school who often said, "You can have it all, but you can't have it all at once." And she was like, it's really just a balance across the entirety of your life, not a balance at any given point. And I think that was actually really helpful to hear her articulate, because it kind of shook me out of that need of like, at every single point in my life, everything has to be equal, or everything has to be perfectly balanced, or there has to be a perfect equilibrium. And she was like, you're going to drive yourself crazy if you keep thinking about it that way. She's like, but if you look back at the entirety of your life, you'll notice that there were some periods of your life where you were way more career focused. And then there were other parts where you were maybe more family focused. And there were other parts where maybe you were more self or friend focused or relationship focused, whatever that may be. And she's like, it'll all balance out in the greater scheme of things. But don't put so much pressure on yourself to have that exact balance at any given point. So I think that was really helpful advice to hear in my early 20s as I was starting. This might also sound a little bit strange, but is sort of the way my mind works. I always have sort of believed that if I continue to like keep stretching and challenging myself in all of these different ways, I will build the capacity to do it, right? So like sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, how did you, sometimes people will refer to the time when I was in grad school and they're like, you were in a master's program, you were writing a thesis, you were engaged to get married, you were planning a wedding, you were planning orientation, because that was my full-time job at the same time, and you bought your first house, which was a real fixer-upper, and you also had to like do renovations, and we were poor, so we were doing our own renovations at the same time. And they were like, how did you do that? And I was like, sometimes I almost worry that if I don't have lots of things that are sort of stretching me in different ways, I will grow rigid and won't be as flexible and able to sort of absorb that stress or absorb the need that is there. And so I think for me, while I certainly am not always juggling that many things anymore, I do look for opportunities to continue to do that and to find ways to stretch myself so that I can keep myself nimble I really believe that a lot of it is flexibility, and it's a muscle that has to be built. And if you don't work out that muscle regularly, it will be hard to maintain it. And then my last answer to your question is, I think it is truly figuring out how can you build a village of people around you that can help balance those pieces out. And to be honest and transparent in those conversations, as I was with you when you asked that question, I'm divorced now. And so I have my son half the time, and I still rely very heavily on my relationship with my ex to make sure that we're figuring out our schedules and balancing both his work needs and my work needs and our personal lives and so on and so forth. And I know that I'm very fortunate. That's not something that everybody has in a divorce situation. But it's kind of figuring out like who are the people in your corner, whether that is someone that isn't in your life in a romantic way anymore, but is still family, or whether that's friends that have, become so close they are family, or whether it's actually family. And just sort of figuring out how you can piece all of those things together. But I give myself a lot more grace now than I did a couple days.
Wow. That's so rich, really. I mean, your response is so rich, and I mean, there's so many different avenues to go down. But I think the two that really stand out to me is one, having a group of people around you, a support system around you, to be able to support you, to help you, right? Through all of the different challenges or all the different experiences that we have. So just listening to you talk about, trying to get married, to have a fixer upper, to, do all of these things, have to do your master's, do a thesis and all of that. That's one type of a support. But then I hear the other type of a support that now that your life has changed, right? And you are now parenting solo, so to speak, or co-parenting, and that's become a different relationship, that maybe those needs have changed and that you've had to seek support, perhaps maybe even from different folks where you may not have thought about that before. Is that a good way to sum that up?
Yeah, I think so. And there's actually, one of the things I learned from my exec coach a few years ago that's been really, in my opinion, transformational is really understanding your feelings and needs.
Yep.
And I actually used to do this exercise with my son when he was in fourth grade. I'd have him do these reflections every night, and it's pretty simple actually. So at the end of the day, or at any given moment, even, you can essentially ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And I highly encourage everyone to actually look. You could do like a Google search for NVC feelings list, and I would actually look at a feelings list and try and identify all the feelings that you currently have. And the reason I say that is because if you don't look at a list, most of you will be like happy, sad, angry, and it will be like a generic 5 or 6 feelings that you can think of off the top of your head. But look at that list, be as specific as possible. And then this is the really cool part of the exercise is once you have your feelings written down, right next to each feeling, I want you to look up a needs list. And what you want to do is you actually want to map the need that was met or unmet that caused you to feel that particular way. And if you actually do this for, let's say, a month straight or a few months, you will literally, and you go back and look at your list, you will actually start to see, wow, I have some really core needs that keep coming up for me. And when they're met, I have positive feelings. And when they are unmet, I have negative feelings. And all of us essentially have multiple needs, but we all kind of have a core, probably 3 to 5 needs that just always show up in our life over and over again. And over the course of your life, you will find different people in different ways to fulfill those needs. And obviously, one of the best things we can do for ourselves is to figure out how we can fulfill some of those needs for ourselves. But that, I think, becomes extremely powerful and very, very helpful as you figure out how to navigate the ups and downs of life, the changes that you will experience, whether professionally or personally, is to have a good sense of what some of those needs are, and to recognize that how it's being met now might need to shift and change over time.
Oh, I mean, that is fantastic advice. And as a coach, that's one thing that I do talk about with my clients, right? Is okay, but you have a need, or we all have them, and you're right that they can be very, very core needs that we have. And it's learning to articulate it, I think, for, I'll say, at least for some of my clients, men and women, women in a different way, where they have a very difficult time, or they're challenged with how do you articulate the need in the workplace, for example. So I'm wondering if you could speak to that, like, as you've learned what those needs might be, how have you learned, or how do you suggest to people that they articulate those needs in a good and an effective way?
Yeah. So I'll give you actually a really concrete example from just a year and a half ago. I was in a disagreement with my CEO, and we were talking about how to approach a particular situation. And I left the conversation feeling so aggravated. I mean, just aggravated and exasperated and annoyed and probably indignant to some degree. And I was trying to figure out what to do about it. Did I want to address it? I knew that he could tell I had feelings about it in the meeting, and I could tell he had feelings about it in the meeting. And we were direct enough work culture that we were able to talk directly about why we disagreed about said approach. But we didn't get to the actual needs in that moment. And I went back, talked to my exec coach later that week, and she said, well, first, let's just break it down in terms of your needs and feelings from the situation. So we did that first, and we literally did the exact same exercise I just shared with you. And then after we did that and we had mine sort of lined up, she said, okay, let's just think for a moment. What do you think his needs and feelings were? So then we did his. And she goes, what do you notice about this, about the two lists? And she was like, in this particular situation, both of you actually had really similar needs. And actually, in one case, we had the exact same need that needed to be met. And I wasn't meeting it for him, and he wasn't meeting it for me. And she goes, and that's what caused both of you to have emotions about it. But you have different emotions. You feel this way when that happens, and he feels this way when that happens, even though the need was the same, the feelings show up differently. So then she said to me, so the question now is, how much do you care about your relationship with your boss? Is it a relationship where you want to feel deeper connection and understanding and repair? Or is this a relationship that you're like, I'm fine with the way it is. I don't know that I need it to really be any different. And I'm not sure it's worth my time or energy to address it. And she goes, you have a choice. She's like, you can address it or you cannot address it. And she goes, but if you choose not to address it, you have to actually be willing to let it go. And so she goes, so can you actually let it go? If you can't let it go and you know that it's going to continue to fester or bother you, then you have your answer. Your answer is you need to address it. And then we can talk about how to address it. And so I thought about it and I was like, well, I feel like we actually do have a really good relationship. We've already gone through and gotten through some tough conversations before. It is someone that I want to continue to like deepen and strengthen the relationship with. So yeah, I think I do want to address it. And I was like, but I don't know how. And so and all of this is essentially NVC, right? It's the nonviolent communication framework. And so she essentially was like, well, start with your observation and then express your feelings of how it made you feel. And acknowledge the needs that were unmet for you, and then end with a request of what would you like him to do differently in the future. And so I found that it was easier if I actually sort of wrote it out, essentially. And we use Slack at work. And so I decided to actually just write him a quick note. And I was like, hey, I know we had some disagreements in today's meeting. I have been thinking about it. And these are some of my quick thoughts and reflection. And what I did was I actually also really acknowledged his feelings and thoughts about the whole situation first, before acknowledging mine, saying, you might have felt misunderstood. You might have felt like I did not see your knowledge and competence in how much you actually know about this particular area, and so on and so forth. And he wrote back the nicest note of acknowledgement, because he was like, wow, he literally essentially said, like, I really feel seen. Thank you for acknowledging that. He's like, you're absolutely correct. And he was like, I don't know how you just did this, but you should tell some of the other execs that when they're angry with me, this is how they should approach the conversation because this was extremely
Wow.
helpful. And so that really it reset and it allowed us to get to that point. And I apologize. I'm going to literally pull down the blinds
Oh,
as the
go
sun
for
is
it.
coming in my face.
Go for it. Yeah, I was like, oh, there's sun all of a sudden.
Sorry about that.
No worries. No worries.
We're just having a really real conversation today, aren't we?
Hey, listen, this is what we need sometimes, right? Is to have a very real conversation and not to have it be so sanitized and perfect and right and all of that. Because this is our everyday lives, right? Our lives are not perfect and sanitized as much as we like to pretend that it is on social media, right?
That is true. That is true.
I have to say, I really appreciate you sharing that story. And, the story arc was incredible, right? Because, here you are, you have this situation with your boss, right? Right. And I think a lot of us can identify with this where you disagree with an approach, or just whatever it is, right? In your instance, it's an approach. And then you both kind of walk away knowing that the other person is frustrated, and you have to really sit in that and wrestle with that. And I think for a lot of us, which is why I love the story arc, is because at the end of it, there's a resolution. And it is something where both you and your boss could come to the table, so to speak,
Yeah.
and say, okay, yeah, this is where we were. This is how I felt. I understand how you felt, or at least this is what I think, but to be able to have this conversation around it. But here's my question that I would guess that some people out here watching and listening would have.
Okay.
Yeah, but you have an executive coach. I either can't get one, can't afford one, because we're not always cheap. I will say that, right? Right.
Yeah.
Who do I go to? Would this be something where I could go to a mentor and
Yeah.
have this kind of a conversation?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the reality is, look, I just got an executive coach in the past like 3-4 years of my career. So for the majority of my career and in all of my advancement, I didn't have one. But what I did have were good people in my life that would be honest and give me real feedback and that I could trust. When you're working, so I've worked at multiple institutions, as Denise mentioned in my intro. Sometimes what is most important is actually to find friends in your functional area, right? So they do kind of some of the same work that you do, but they do it for another institution. So they understand your work. They can generally understand some of the types of challenges that you are faced with, but they don't personally know all of the people that you are dealing with. And you don't have to worry about sharing something with them that could then leak out to the rest of your campus institutional community. And having a group, or even honestly, just 1 or 2 people like that that you can trust, can be life-changing. That is certainly something that I very much relied on early on in my career, was having a group of, honestly, they turned out to be friends, who now are still folks that I go to sometimes say, hey, look, this is what I'm dealing with, and I just need a sounding board. I need you to like hear the scenario and hear the situation, and then I need you to ask me questions about what I'm not thinking about the other person's perspective. I need you to, or at the moment, I just need you to commiserate with me. I don't want advice. I just need you to listen and share in my venting. And that's it, right? Like, be clear with the people that you're talking to. And then, of course, you're also going to have mentors. And I think this is the other important piece too, is you don't need just one mentor. You actually need multiple mentors. You need a mentor that's great at negotiation, and you need a mentor that's great at communication, and you need a mentor that's great at navigating political environments. Like, you need mentors that have different strengths in different areas, because depending on the topic at hand or the issue or situation at hand, you're going to want to go to different people for that. And the reality is that's even true for my exec coach. I know that my exec coach is really good at certain things, but I'll be honest, there's some things where like I might talk to her about it, but I'm probably taking someone else's advice on some of those pieces. And that's okay. Like, what you want to do is literally build a board of advisors around yourself, or a village of people that you can go to, depending on what the topic is.
You know, what I like and appreciate about what you just shared is I think we have probably heard that phrase of, build your board of advisors, right? Or your executive, committee around you without really, I think, having an appreciation for what that can mean. And
Mm,
so what I'm hearing from you is, hey, look, it's not just a mentor, which I think a lot of us have grown up with, particularly women, right? We talk about, oh, I need a mentor. I
yep.
think just even in the phrasing itself,
Yeah.
right? I need a mentor. Okay, well, and how long do I have the mentor? And is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? And how do I find the mentor? But what I appreciate about what you're saying is it's a world around you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It can be your literal friend who
Yeah.
becomes a
Yeah.
mentor for you for a specific thing.
Yeah.
It could be, and I love this suggestion that you shared, is go to a sister college or a similar
Mhm.
place where somebody has a similar role and either commiserate with that person or get feedback from that person about expectations perhaps, or how you express your needs. And then I just love the different layers that you've talked about. So I think with that, what is one other suggestion that you would offer to the folks listening about how to find
Mm,
these folks, these mentors, these coaches, these peer mentors, even?
yeah. Yeah. So I think honestly, the easiest way is to stop thinking of it as looking for a mentor. I think
Yeah.
it's harder. It's almost like I'm like looking for a boyfriend. I'm looking for a relationship. I'm looking for my next spouse. Like kind of like take the pressure off. You are looking to connect with somebody where you find them to be intelligent and thoughtful, and you can connect on some level about some topic. That's all you're looking for. You're looking for someone you enjoy having conversation with. That's it. Like bring the bar down a little bit and then let it organically happen. And honestly, for me, where some of that happened was actually attending conferences and going to some different regional meetups, national meetups. I know budgets are tight right now, so everyone might not have a chance to do professional development. But take advantage of what's locally around you if you cannot go to national things. But honestly, that's where I found my folks. And I didn't find like 8 of them at once. I found one, right? Like I found one person that I was like, wow, I really enjoyed your questions in that session. Do you want to grab coffee? I would love to like ask you a few more questions. And then we just kind of got to talking, and we were like, well, we'll see each other next year at this conference, right? And then like some time passes, and the next year we were like, are you going? I'm going. Let's meet up. Let's like talk about what's been happening for the past year. And then the
Mm.
next thing you know, we're talking about this, and then that person is like, oh, do you know so and so? I always talk to that person about X. And I'm like, no, like I would love the introduction, right? And so it kind of just over time organically happens. So I think part of it is like take the pressure off of yourself that you need to like find all of these mentors in the next 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
They all need to be really close, and you have to feel this deep connection with each of them. Like it's going to take time and it's going to be organic, but just look for someone that you enjoy talking to and that you
Yeah.
find to be somewhat interesting. And it's okay if you want to just start on your own campus at first and then kind of branch out from there. That's also okay. So I think you can look at it from a number of different angles.
I love that. And I think this follow-up question may be something that you could kind of touch on too, because I think that this is something that I would agree with you that's absolutely organic. And those have been the ones that I personally have enjoyed is when it just happens, not when I kind of, I think the way that we have been taught, right?
Yeah.
Particularly in schools or, wherever your graduate programs would have you, it's no, well, look them up online, which is not a bad idea, right? And then
Mhm.
do the introductory email and then do like this is there are steps to
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
and there
yeah.
can be, and that can work. But
Mhm.
I'm wondering too about the how long do I have this? Like what happens? I reach out. I get this question. I'm sure you do too. I've
Mhm.
reached out to someone, we spoke once or twice, and then I never hear from them again. Or,
Mhm.
it just seems that the relationship ends, right?
Yeah,
Somehow.
yeah.
What advice do you have around that for people?
Yeah, so couple things. One is you should genuinely ask yourself, is it a bad thing that it might be fizzling out, because maybe it's run its course. Maybe you've gotten what you needed to get out of that. You've had a chance to talk, you asked your questions, and now you're kind of good. And honestly, maybe it's time to move on to someone else. That's okay too. It's okay if it kind of fizzles out. If you feel like, well, but there's still something that I really want from Denise, or I'm still like eager to learn more from her. Well, the reality is then it's on you to keep that relationship going. Okay. So let's use me as an example. Let's say, Denise, we met through this wonderful event and
Right.
you were a great moderator. And I'm like, I liked Denise a lot. I want to keep talking to her. Then it's my job to reach out to Denise and to have a reason for reaching out to Denise. Denise is a busy woman. She is a coach. She's got lots of people probably knocking on her door. And so if I want to continue talking to her, I need to come to her with a legitimate reason for why I would like 20, 30 minutes of her time. If I do that, Denise is more likely to say yes. She may be too busy, and that's okay. She can say that she can't, she isn't able to at the moment, and that's totally fine. But she's more likely to say yes if I actually have a real reason, not just a like, I just wanted to catch up. Like Denise and I, as friendly as we might be right now, we're not actually friends, right? Like we don't know each other like that right now. So if Denise is like, I've got limited time, I have my family, my friends, things I have to do, I'm not just randomly going to connect with a person for 30 minutes just for the sake of it. Like, what do you need from me? How can I help you?
Right.
So I think also being specific in your question. I get a lot of outreach where people will be like, I see that you work in ed tech, or you work in higher education, or you work in X area. Would just love to get to know you. And I'm like, okay, cool. That's nice. But the ones that are much easier for me to say yes to is, I saw that you made a transition from higher ed to tech. I'm thinking about making that transition myself. I would love to hear from you what that transition was like and what the challenges were and what I should be thinking about if I realistically want to make this move. Would be an example of how you take a vague topic and make it much more specific, right? And it can obviously be about anything else. It doesn't have to be about that topic, but that's an example of how you take something that maybe in your head sounded specific, but to someone on the receiving end is like, okay, to something that's like, oh, okay, they want to know exactly what my challenges were and what advice I would have for them on how they should change this, right? Like be as specific as possible. It will help with somebody saying yes.
That is true. I have to say, I have found that particularly the higher you go when you are reaching out to people. And this is going to actually segue in a second into an advocate question, right? Like how people advocate for themselves. So I'm just setting the standard or at least the bar here, which is, when I have reached out before to people who are C-suite particularly, right? Their schedules are wonky crazy, right? Which I get. And if you even get the opportunity to talk to the person to set up the schedule, right? That's a whole nother thing in itself, but it is possible. It is possible. And it's possible when you do exactly, I think, what you're saying, which is being very specific. I have recently talked about with someone who shall remain nameless about joining on a paid board. Right. And I heard this person speak at an event and did exactly what you said, right? As, hey, I want to speak with you about this in the future, 15 minutes, because I knew that person, I think I got 45, right? Eventually, right out of that. But it is that specific request. So here's the setup. And now here's the pitch. The pitch is, how do you take that same kind of thinking and use that in your workplace to advocate for yourself? Whether it is, I want a promotion, or I want to move to a different area, or, we'll use higher ed speak since we have a higher ed audience. How do I move from one campus to another without creating, I don't know, angst or something, but how do I advocate for myself?
Yes. Okay. So this is going to sound counterintuitive, but part of the way that you advocate yourself is to identify the people who are going to advocate on your behalf.
Okay.
So when you go into any environment, Okay, it could be your first day, it could be your 15th year. It does not matter. You can start fresh as soon as Denise and I are done speaking today. Get your environment, and I want you to literally document. I want you to observe and document who are the most influential people in your environment. Okay, it could be influential based on title in some cases, but more often than not, it will be influential based on just the person and the relationships, especially in higher education, especially in higher education, and especially in a system like CUNY, where you have some people who have been here for 15, 20, 25 years. And they might not be the executive director of an office, or they might not be the dean or the associate vice provost, but they might be the person that's been there for a long time who has garnered so many relationships that when they say something, people pay attention a little bit more. People listen, or people might go to that person to say, like, hey, what do you see? What are you noticing? Right. And so what you want to do is you want to pay attention to that, and you want to identify those individuals. The second thing that you want to observe for yourself is, how do decisions get made in my particular organization? Does it all seem to go up to one person and that person makes the decision? Do I seem to be working in an environment where it's very much consensus driven? So we kind of generally all need to agree before something happens. Do I work in a very top down sort of organization or division? Do I work in a kind of consult and decide, where they'll come to us and ask us our opinion, but then ultimately with their vantage point, they'll make a call on things? That also tells you a lot. So now you know the people who are influential, you know how decisions are made and how that kind of flows through everybody, right? And then that gives you essentially a roadmap. It gives you a roadmap of the relationships that you need to develop. And let me be very clear. I am not saying that you don't need to develop relationships with people who are not influential. I want you to develop relationships with everybody, but you should make sure that you are paying attention to who is influential and who has power and influence in the room, and who are in rooms who are not in. Those are key and critical to your advocacy of how you will be seen. Sometimes I'll give you several examples.
Okay.
When I was at Wellesley, one of the things that was very clear to me was that if I wanted anything done related to career education, it was going to be very, very critical to get faculty on board. That's the type of institution that I worked at.
Mm-hmm.
And if I did not have certain faculty, it didn't matter if I had 90% of the faculty, it was still not going to happen. So did I spend time building relationships with all the champions who were excited about what I was doing? 100%. But did I also have to spend extra time with some of the folks that maybe were a little bit more of the detractors because I knew how influential they were? Yes, I did. I did have to spend extra time. I needed to spend extra time understanding their concerns. I needed to spend extra time talking to them, building an actual relationship that was not just transactional. And I had to really hear and understand what it was they cared about so that I could align my framing, right? I wasn't changing my vision,
Right.
but I was changing the narrative and the way that I talked about it so that it appealed to folks. That way, when some of those influential faculty were behind closed doors in meetings that I knew I was not going to be in, I knew that they would say positive things about either my work or my team or what we were doing or what we had been able to accomplish. And that was going to help me get traction into the next thing or the next objective that we needed to achieve. Now, that of course is a little bit different than say trying to get a promotion or trying to get a raise or trying to get a transfer. But the same principles apply. You essentially want people who are not you to be able to talk positively about you when you are not in the room. And you do that by observing and figuring out who those people are, building relationships with those people, and also, quite frankly, making sure that you actually are doing your job really, really well and that they can see that so that it makes it easy for them to advocate on your behalf.
Now that's an interesting approach, and I want to delve into that because I think hearing that you want other people to advocate for you as a way for you to advocate for yourself it's like kind of mind blowing, right? For a lot of us. What would you say would be the rationale for that? Like like if somebody is out there, and I'm sure there must be, I'm positive, who is going, yeah, but I need to know how to, speak up for myself. Why do I have to rely on some other people to do that for me?
That's a really good question. And I should be clear, and we can get to this part of the
Yeah.
question afterward. I want you to be able to speak up for yourself as well. That
Mhm.
is still a skill that you also need to have. I'm just saying in the work environment, you need to take a holistic approach. It is not enough for you to advocate for yourself. You also need to have others advocate for you. The reason I think that that is important is because the reality is you can't be in all places all the time. Just a
Mm.
reality. You can't.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
sometimes the people who are making the decision about who's going to get promoted or who's going to go up for the next post or who's going to get transferred to the really cool assignment, or the new office that's being built or the new position that's going to be created, you're not always going to be able to be there. And even if you knew about it and you raised your hand and you're like, please consider me, these are all the things that I've done, I believe I'm ready for it, which is also fantastic. It doesn't hurt to have somebody else go, yeah, she really is fantastic. She's so
Mm.
good. I worked with her on X project and like I can vouch for her. Like I believe that she could do it, right? Like that just increased your chances that much more. So why wouldn't you want to
Right.
just make sure that you're taking as comprehensive an approach as possible?
Mm.
So all that said, you should also know how to advocate for yourself and how to speak up for yourself. And this is very environment driven. And so let me just sort of start by saying that when you're in a higher ed environment, a lot of how you're going to advocate for yourself is by being relational and by being collaborative and by helping the team to succeed and to be able to sort of showcase those pieces. So it's kind of this delicate balance that you're constantly teetering on of saying, this is what our team was able to accomplish, and this is how I was able to support the team in doing that. This is how I was able to help contribute to the work that our division did, right? So it doesn't sound self-promotional, but it also doesn't sound like you didn't have any part in it and it was just your team that did it, right? So it's kind of like acknowledging the team and then acknowledging your part, your support or contribution as part of that team. And I chose very carefully, literally those two words, support and contribution, because within the higher ed setting, that tends to be the nomenclature. It tends to be the environment and the culture. When you transition cultures into something else, it can be much more direct. I was really blown away when I first moved into industry. And in one of my first one-on-ones with somebody that reported to me, she literally had on her one-on-one agenda item with me, promotion, title change. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, are we really going to talk about this? And when we got to that bullet, she said, review cycle is coming up in a couple of months, and I want to let you know that I'd like to be up for promotion and I'd like to have a title change to director.
Wow.
And with that, I would like an increase of at least X amount of dollars. And I was like, wow, okay, this is how, and she was not alone. Like that was just how things were done. People were really direct about that whole conversation. And that was something I was completely unaccustomed to coming from the higher ed setting. So it's knowing your environment and then knowing how to frame that narrative from there.
Whoa. Let me tell you, I'm so bummed that we have to put this as a bit of a closure now because we are at that time. But my goodness, I hope that people appreciate the wealth of knowledge that you just dropped today. And in such a, I think, fun, meaningful way of being able to do that. Um, I wish that we could continue. We have about 40 seconds left. So I want to give you 30 of those seconds before I hand it back over. What would you say your final, if you could walk away with anything, what's the final thing that you really want this audience to walk away with?
Oh gosh, that's such a big question.
I know, even if you summarize everything that you said.
I think it is, well, what is probably on my mind at the moment, and I would encourage everybody to think about is, this is my mantra for kind of 2025. if you can manage your mindset, you can manage everything else.
Mhm.
And so I think that is incredibly powerful because in the world that we are living in at the moment, with everything that's going on around us, whether on our campuses, in our offices, in our cities and states, in our country, there's a lot that's happening. There's a lot of information that's coming at us. There's a lot that's changing constantly, and it can sometimes feel a little overwhelming. And I think when we feel that way, what is most important is to go back to where you have locus of control, which is you. You get to control you. You get to control how you think. You get to control your mindset. You get to control your perspective. And that changes everything around you. It changes how you choose to see the world. It changes how you choose to approach things. It changes your strategies. And so I just want you to know that at the end of the day, you have a lot of power and you have a lot of influence in yourself. And it starts with your mindset.
Mm. Christine, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. I know you've got so much
Beautiful.
that you've got to get back to, but you really, I think, have just given us not just pearls of wisdom, but gems as well. Not everybody likes pearls, but we all can appreciate pearls and gems as well, right? So thank you so much for joining us today. And now I would like to thank everyone for being here and for watching. And I'd love to turn this back over to Vivian Lee, who will come back and has got some things to share with you.
Wow, Dr. Denise and Christine, thank you. Christina, thank you so much for an amazing chat. I feel like in a lot of ways it was therapy and just a real privilege to be able to sit in on two rock stars of executive leadership, talking it out and dropping some real pearls of wisdom, as you said. And I also understand that, Christine, you traveled for the whole week before joining us.
I did.
So, and you're on the left coast. And so I feel like, wow, we were so privileged to get such an amazing amount of time listening to both of you, giving us some great guardrails and advice. And we are just so lucky to have had you as part of this panel
Thank you.
and session today. So thank you so much to both of you.
Thank
For
you.
everyone else, we are now at the point where our first breakout session begins, and we really encourage you to take advantage of both this session and the other two sessions that will follow the networking lunch that breaks up the day. Also, I'd like to put out a reminder to everyone that at the end of today's session, which will hit at around 3 p.m., and for those of you who have to leave before 3 p.m., please do so, but don't forget to fill out the survey. It is a series of questions asking you how this part of the conference went for you, what you would like to see more of, what you would like to see deleted or added. So please contribute, and we continue to support all of you. Just trying to drop at least one of the pieces of advice that Christine gave us. So everyone have a great breakout session number 1, and we shall see you later in the day.